Frank Feighan. Frank Feighan is the Minister for Public Health and Wellbeing. He's a Fine Gaeler, and he's also the minister responsible for our drug strategy here in Ireland. So, before I talk to you a little bit about Frank Feighan, tomorrow, the 10th of July, is going to be a major smoke up above in Dublin, in Dublin's Phoenix Park. Because if you happen to be around Dublin tomorrow and you're anyway at all supportive of the cannabis community, get on over to the Phoenix Park. You might like what you see over there. We're going to have people out in support, calling on the government to bring about change and to break the stigma that exists towards the people of the cannabis community, and to also help just to bring the community together and to meet like-minded people. There's going to be musicians down there. There's going to be some live music. There's also going to be some yoga going on down there too. And there seems to be a cool graffiti artist wall being set up. And there's going to be a lot of joints being smoked as well. Yeah, I have a nice big fatty hair for myself for after I do this podcast there. But that's happening in Dublin tomorrow on the 10th of July. Then below in Cork, we also have something happening on the 11th, which is on the Saturday, the following day. Both of these events are going to be kicking off at 2 p.m. So keep that in mind if you want to be coming along. In Dublin, it's going to be in Phoenix Park, and in Cork, it's going to be happening at the Fitzgerald Skate Park. So there's a green area there just across from the skate park area. Nice big open space, plenty of room for social distancing and all of that kind of carry on that has to be adhered to these days. But again, that's going to be Again, that's going to be Saturday down by Fitzgerald Skate Park, and we will have some cool prizes to be won down there as well also. We're going to have Dr. Dabber, that's worth €350, going to be raffled off, and we have a 6-foot shisha bong. That will also be raffled off. Raffle tickets are €2 each, or you can get 5 of them for a £5, and you'll be able to get those raffle tickets at the sponsors stores, so Funky Skunk in Cork and Puff and Stuff in Cork City. Both of these stores have kindly donated towards the event in Cork on Saturday, so if you'd like to go in there and pick up some tickets, definitely go for it. You won't be disappointed if you happen to be lucky enough to win any of those prizes. There's a couple of other ones there, boxes of skins and things like that. But the two main prizes, a 6-foot shisha bong and also Dr. Dabber. I know the guys above in Dublin also have some amazing prizes to give away, including a volcano of the volcano vaporizer, which also is worth it's in excess of €400 if memory serves right, unless that's changed, but also some other amazing prizes. And those prizes too were donated by some local businesses above in Dublin. So guys, make sure you get out there and show some support for these businesses who've been supporting the community and help breaking the stigma out there. So guys, let's drive on. Let's get on to the point of the show this evening. Frank Feighan. Frank Feighan is a Fine Gaeler, as I said earlier, and he is recently appointed the Minister responsible for Public Health, Wellbeing and the Drug Strategy. And Frank Feighan acknowledges that he does not have a background in the area of drug policy. What the hell was he put there for? If you don't have expertise in a job, you don't go and do it unless you're working underneath somebody, I wouldn't ever walk into a garage and start working as a mechanic without first working as a trainee mechanic, maybe. Let the experts show you what's to be done, Frank. Funny, as I was saying earlier there, it's funny enough that we've a guy responsible for our drug strategy, and his name is Frank, with the Let's Talk to Frank campaign and all that kind of crack, just think that's kind of gas. But Frank, he says that he's learning something new every day in his new role. That's not hard, Frank, when clearly when you've already admitted you know nothing. So Frank, come on, seriously. The dude hadn't heard of laughing gas, the nitrous oxide stuff that that's all the rage with the young people these days, madness. And this guy is appointed to the Ministry for Public Health, Wellbeing and Drug Policy. Stupidity. I guarantee you the guy has never heard of drug testing either at festivals where some life-saving work is being done. Yes, life-saving work, Um, something that I think about actually lately is all of this harm reduction stuff that we've been promoting for over the last years. Like we've been saying for years, like that this stuff can save lives. When I was in CIT, I campaigned to have drug testing reagents available in the bathrooms for students, just like condoms are, in order to promote safe drug use. It's not to promote drug use, it's just to promote safe drug use. That, hey, there's this reagent that, say, if you're using something like cocaine, you can test it and see if there's contaminants in there or what purity it might be. Now, these tests aren't 100% foolproof, but you know what? Like there's a slight reduction in the risk towards the consumer of that drug there. So just like face masks now and all of this other kind of public policy that's been recommended to us, like Frank, why aren't we now taking these harm reduction measures that have worked very well in other areas? This stuff isn't new. This stuff isn't new by any means at all. It's been around for quite a while, and implement them here. It's things like supervised injection centers. Like, why aren't we doing that? Why aren't we decriminalizing the drug user and just breaking that stigma, and people with addictions, just get them in and help them? Students who want to take drugs, let's enable safer drug use by setting up drug testing facilities. If we're not going to go the further step, which we should be doing, which is to regulate the drug supply in order to control and ensure the quality of the drugs, like that is ultimately the best thing we could do if we want to protect drug users, is to control the supply of the drugs and make sure that we're giving truthful information to people. Frank, not going out there spouting your nonsense that cannabis is a gateway drug or alcohol is a gateway drug. Like, it's ludicrous to be even spouting that nonsense. Like, there is nothing in cannabis or alcohol that makes you crave other drugs. There is nothing in there. Like, there is nothing. Alcohol has an ability to lower your decision making capacity. That is 100% for sure. I'm not arguing that. And in that sense, then, yes, you are more at risk at doing harder drugs because, as I say, your decision-making capacity has been lowered because of alcohol. Yes, but alcohol is not a gateway drug. That's just stupid, Frank. Stop talking stupid talk. Like, seriously, man, cop on. Frank also recently, in his campaign to be elected, went on the radio and started throwing people under the bus. Frank claimed that public officials and people in RTE are snorting coke all over the place, and that everybody taking cocaine is adding to the crime problem. Frank, what about the people who are supporting the policies that enable the drug dealers in the first place? The policy of prohibition. You don't have to look far. Like, just look at alcohol prohibition and what went on back in the 1920s in America, and all of the gangsters and the crime gangs that came about because of that. Even within the crime enforcement divisions, there was gangsters started emerging because of the toxic power that they started getting when they were out there kicking in people's doors. Some of the prohibitionists who enforced alcohol prohibition at the time returned to their home where they enjoyed drink. It's no secret. Like, you can look at it, it's out there, like, that some of the prohibition officers, the agents of prohibition or whatever they were called, like, they actually drank. They went home and they drank themselves, like, just no different to our own ministers and public officials here, as Frank is saying, is they're all at it. Apparently there was a test done there a couple of years back where some journalist or a reporter, anyway, investigator, went into Leinster House, I think it was, and he done a swab of the toilets in the Dáil, and he found traces of cocaine there. No secret, like these boys, they like to enjoy a pint up there while they work late at night. It's even subsidised for them, they have their own drugs at work. But yet they look down their nose on other drug users in our society. And it has to end. It really does have to end, Frank. And he talks about like how when you buy cocaine, you're contributing to the problem. But Frank, by keeping prohibition in place, like that ultimately creates the problem. It's the source of the problem. It's not people taking drugs. People will always take drugs, no matter what. As long as people exist, they will want to experiment with their reality. They just want to. They want to get drunk. They want to get high. Whatever it is, whether it be through actual substance ingestion or whether it be pushing themselves, running ultra marathons or going into deep meditative states. People like to explore their consciousness, and our government have been overstepping their boundary now for too long, Frank. And it's your public policies that have been putting the people in danger, Like Frank talks about people in RT taking cocaine and all of that, like, but is he alluding to maybe Jerry Ryan? Jerry Ryan is a kind of I don't know, would you say maybe an infamous radio presenter or a famous presenter? I don't know how you would describe him anyway, but didn't know much of the guy basically when he was alive, but I did hear about him when he died. Because of the controversy around his death with the cocaine. And like when he died, it came out in the news like that people were well aware of his drug use, that he was actively taking cocaine in his day-to-day work life, and this was kind of normal and it was okay, tolerated, like this guy, well-to-do guy, millionaire, I'd imagine, very well paid. Unlike me, he probably didn't get stopped and searched going down the road. He probably didn't have to look over his shoulder and worry about the guards, because the guards probably wanted his bloody autograph. Like he probably was reaching into his pocket to take out a pen to sign autographs for guards, I'd imagine, and he probably had a cocaine in that exact same pocket with his pen and paper. Probably using that same paper only a few minutes before signing it for the guard to snort his coke. Probably had traces of coke on it, and he gave it to the guard. But the guard wouldn't search it because he's Jerry Ryan, He's not Martin Condon. He's not some scumbag young fella walking around in the north side of Cork City wearing a hoodie who's worth pulling the pants off of, because he's not wearing a suit and he's not well kept, and he's not from a more affluent area, But that's the reality, Frank. There's a two-tier system out there. You have people like Jerry Ryan who can go about and walk and not be subject to being stopped and searched, but whereas you have people like myself who will have the pants pulled off them merely just because of the area I'm walking in and the clothes I'm wearing. There's no fairness to it, like. And then, Frank, also, just while we're on the topic of Jerry Ryan, Frank, when his autopsy came in, there was traces of a drug used for treating parasites in cattle and sheep. That's not healthy, Frank. Frank, let's talk about drugs, Frank. Drugs like cocaine, Frank, when they're in the hands of criminals, they get cut. They get cut with drugs like this one used for treating parasites and worms. And this was found in the system of Jerry Ryan in his autopsy report. I wouldn't imagine Jerry ingested this stuff knowingly. This is the reality of the situation out there. Like Jerry Ryan paid above and beyond for his drugs just to keep it secret. He paid top dollar for his drugs just to keep it secret, and he still got drugs that were cut with worm parasites, a drug for treating parasitic worms, like nasty stuff. Like, you don't want to be putting this stuff into your body. And then, not to mention then, Jerry Ryan, and all the RT kind of crew who knew of his habit and kind of said nothing and stuff, the cocaine trade is probably one of the most violent drug trades out there. The violence that goes on within the cocaine trade, it's ridiculous. The criminality, the criminal element there, they're heavy-handed, and they go to extremes because of the money that's involved in it. the poor farmers over there in Bolivia and Colombia and things like that. Like they're put through terrible situations, and they have to deal with like some violent people. And then like the likes of Jerry Ryan gets to sit down and snort his cocaine, and not really worry about the impacts of that. The people who processed it and everything, like they work with dangerous chemicals and dangerous environments. Those chemicals get leached off into the environment when they're finished the process. Then you have all the smuggling that goes on. Like you have people ingesting massive amounts of cocaine, the pellets. You always hear stories of pellets exploding in the mules' stomachs. Horrendous stuff like that's involved in the cocaine trade. And unlike the cannabis trade, it's very hard for a person who does cocaine then to go home and grow their own cocaine. You can't really. You could grow coca leaves and what have you, but it's unheard of people growing coca leaves at home and making their own cocaine. But with cannabis, you can definitely do that. You can definitely remove yourself from the black market, and I encourage people to do that. Actually, is to get away from that. And we go back to our buddy Frank here, and Frank, as a person who's responsible for public health. You should really be taking a more proactive approach in reducing the harms of drugs causing our society. And one of the greatest harms caused by drugs in our society is it stems from those drugs being controlled by criminals and criminal gangs. Like if you were to regulate cannabis, then you could have it grown under the same standards that our foods are grown under. All the regulations and the safety guidelines are there. It's not very hard to apply them to cannabis. Good agricultural practices, good harvesting practices, very easily applied to cannabis. And then you can get a quality assured product then to the consumer. You can generate taxes, create jobs. You can divert some of those taxes then into the health education funds, Frank. To get some proper information out there to people. We could do a lot of better things out there, Frank. And I think there's an opportunity now for change. Now that society is as it is, the pubs are as they are. There's a big mix-up up there. There's a big change-up going on. And there's an opportunity now to change how we look at drugs in our society. So, Frank, I'm calling on you, and anybody out there, who knows Frank, get in touch with him. Let him know, that having drugs in the control of criminals is probably one of the most harmful things we could be doing in our society. Like we could look at Portugal. I met with João Glau, the policy maker behind making drugs legal, decriminalised, in Portugal back in 2002. And when I met João Glau in 2015, João said to me that the project in Portugal was an experiment. And he said it was an experiment for Europe. And he said it was a very successful one. And he said that some of the findings of that experiment, he said that they included that decriminalisation, it's great, but it's not the end all and be all. And he said that if any other country is to follow in Portugal's steps, that they need to legalise the drugs, because he talked about decriminalisation enabling low-level drug dealing on the streets, because you now have decriminalised small amounts of drugs to be carried by a person. In Portugal, it's up to 10 days supply. We shouldn't go down that route. Portugal have already done it for us, Frank. So let's take a more sensible approach. And before we decriminalise drugs, let's just put regulations and pathways in place for the sale and supply, especially for cannabis. If not just for the patients who've been majorly left down by the past health minister Simon Harris, who dropped the ball. He fucking dropped that ball. What a plonker he was. Seriously, he had it there for him. Gino Kenny gave him an amazing bill, And he, rather than work with Gino Kenny to address the issues that he seen within the bill, he was like, no, I'm going to do my own thing, like a spoiled little brat. A spoiled little brat. That's all he was. And people like Vera Toomey, the other mothers out there, Pamela, who has to get it for her son Ryan, and the many other patients, like the many nameless people out there who are suffering to this day because of you, Simon Harris. You wanted to put your cannabis access program in place, and nobody has access to cannabis because of you scumbag. Seriously, I'm up in court in September, and I'm going to do my part for this country, and I'm going to step up, and I'm going to challenge, and I'm going to call in the judge, and I'm going to ask him to give me as long as he can for the stupid little joint I'm up for, and I'm going to engage in more civil disobedience before then, because you know what, I'm a bit more of a grown-up than you, Simon Harris, and all of your predecessors who refused to address this issue and done nothing on it. The harms you've caused in our society, you know, over 10 years of my life, 10 years that I've put into being an activist for drug policy reform. You know, the drug policy campaign, it was in 1990, we had the cannabis legalisation party in Ireland, and it started in Cork. And here we are over 30 years later, and I'm still here, and I'm continuing this fight that was started long ago. The cannabis should never have been illegal in the first place. It should never have been illegal. You scumbags for making it illegal in the first place. I done an episode there yesterday or 2 days ago on it about how cannabis being made illegal, it was a racist move in the first place, and still to this day, like it's just a tool by governments and authorities to keep people like myself in place. Not people like Jerry Ryan, as I was saying there. Like people like Jerry Ryan, he gets a free pass because he's them. He's not us. He's not cut from the same cloth as me, you know. He's cut from more finer cloth by the looks of it, or at least that's how it was seen when it comes to the application of our law in our society anyway. Yeah. Look, another quote there from Frank Feighan is, he turns around and he says, drugs are in every part of our society, from the very, very top to the very, very bottom. And as I was saying, Frank, you know, when you go to our courts, and maybe you should go down there and have a look at it, like the people who are going up there for drug possession, they're not the big fish, like, you know. They're not the people you should have up there in the courts. They're people a lot of the times who possibly could have health issues, or would most likely definitely have health issues, like myself, after the dealing with the police and how they do their thing, you know. Like, man, when I was locked up for 5 days and had my freedom taken away, like, geez, that wasn't an easy pill to swallow. That was a very tough pill to swallow, and I still carry the effects of that today. So, like, Frank, and to the rest of your buddies out there in the Irish government, do your part, guys. Let's change our drug laws in Ireland. If you're about to place on Friday, get down to the major smoke up, meet the people of the cannabis community. We're nice people, guys. We won't bite. We'll welcome you with open arms. We're very nice people. We're not criminals. And if you're in Cork on Saturday and you likewise want to meet some very nice people in the cannabis community, come on down to the Fitzgerald Skate Park, the green area right next to it, and we'll be down there too. So guys, this is Martin Condon from Martin's World. I'm going to leave you with that. Be sure to check out martinsworld.ie, where you'll find some products up there that you'll be able to make purchases of to support the show. So guys, thanks again for listening. Martin